An absolute disgrace in every facet of a football game, from referee decisions to Erik Ten Hag's decision to Erik Ten Hag's game management to players' decisions to reaction from players to character. Everything went wrong as Manchester United lost again in the UEFA Champions League 4-3 to FC Copenhagen. 10 men, yes, we understand it. It's always going to be a hard game, but boy, at 2-0 up, there is no excuse for losing 4-3. Conceding 4 goals after getting a red card. If you're Manchester United playing against FC Copenhagen, not prime FC Barcelona, goodness, we've got a long way to go as Manchester United. Welcome to the match reaction of our UEFA Champions League loss, 4-3 loss to FC Copenhagen. It is obviously not what we would have wished to be here to talk about, but again, there we go. We are back where we have been rotating around for the most part of this season. Losing and fluttering to deceive. Well, it's the third loss for Man United in the UEFA Champions League. How on earth are we going to get back from this one? Welcome to the hotspot. My name is Webb. Do subscribe as we get into this match reaction. Now, I know you want to vent. I know you've got a lot of opinions about this game, and I want to get those in the comment section. But first, smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, do subscribe as well, as we do talk about this Champions League game that was a confusion of sorts for me. The first 25 minutes, like Erik Ten Hag said, could have been the most perfect 25 minutes of Man United. And again, as always, we always keep starting well. But it goes bad with a red card that you can contest, obviously. I think it was a bit soft. I didn't see any intention, any malice in Marcus Rashford. But Rashford goes off to create for us another game situation. Again, another opportunity for Erik Ten Hag to show us how good a manager he can be. But guess what? He fails at every front because you're 2-0 up in the first half. You get a red card against Marcus Rashford, not a defender, an attack-minded player. You're already 2-0 up. All you've got to do as a manager is find ways of managing that game. Do your job. Your job is managing. There, all you need is managing. You're Man United, you're struggling to get even a 1-0 win. You're 2-0 up by the time you get a red card in the first half. Manage the game. Ten Hag fails to manage the game. You should be bringing on a whole defensive players, Sophie and Amrabat, perhaps to support the backline. You should be managing the game. What does Ten Hag do? Takes his time. We concede 2 quick goals. We are 2-2 at halftime. We come into the second half. We go 3-2. So we have led the game again. Ten Hag still fails to manage the game. So for me, that's one big problem. Of course, I've already highlighted 2 problems I saw already. A red card, that shouldn't have been a red card. That's to the referees. But it happens in football. It's not the first time we are going to, or the last time we are going to get these wrong decisions against us. But as a manager, you're already 2-0 up. You've got no excuse to fail to manage your players, even the players themselves. If you're 10 men down, you're supposed to work harder. You're supposed to be there for each other. Each player is actually, you're supposed to make it more difficult for your opponent. We've seen smaller clubs go, go 1 man down with a goal up, and they actually go on to win these games by 4 goals to 1 or something. So for me, there is absolutely no excuse for us conceding 4 goals after going 2 goals up, regardless of us being 10 men. Unless if the red-carded person was the goalkeeper. If Andre Onana had been the person who has been given marching orders, I would understand. But Marcus Rashford, who was barely giving us a contribution probably in the game, gets a red card, not what he would have wanted. But the response from Manchester United, the reaction for me is absolutely unacceptable. It is absolutely unacceptable. It speaks to the lack of character from these players. It speaks to the lack of character from the manager. It's like we did not prepare for this scenario. I'm thinking if you're a club like Manchester United, you're playing the Champions League, you've got to prepare for every game scenario. I don't think we're prepared to play without 10 men. I don't think Erik Ten Hag was prepared. He ever dreamt in his wildest dreams that we could go a man down early in the game and he would have to manage the game, because he clearly failed. He faltered, he failed, he labored, he struggled, and boy, wasn't it a disgrace. So for me, there is a lot for Erik Ten Hag to look back at and reflect on and say, I could have done better as a manager of this game. But away from Ten Hag, and of course I won't be calling for his head, because like I said, for me, coming into this game, whereas I expected us to win, I wanted so much to look at how we improve, in how we build up, how we play. I felt the squad that we started with, again, based on what we have, probably Amrabat not starting was the shock for me, but clearly shows you that he has not been putting in the work in training, not been convincing. So I will not go so much on that. But to be honest, I feel the way we managed this game for me was totally off. The players as well did not take responsibility. We didn't see players dying a little. We didn't see players working, for each other. I felt we just lost it when we went a man down. I felt we were clueless, and Copenhagen grew in confidence. I felt even when we bounced back and led again, we failed to control our emotions and reactions. We are failing on certain basics. We couldn't clear, we concede balls from set pieces. We couldn't clear headers. Simple headers couldn't be cleared. We've got tall players in the back in Raphael Varane and Harry Maguire, but we can't clear our lines. We can't, just organize ourselves. I felt like everything United was doing was completely wrong. For me, there is no excuse for that, and it's terrible to see. We are playing Luton next, and you can imagine the pressure the players will come with. And actually, we've got every reason to worry that we could lose against Luton. And if that happened, obviously, many people will be having ideas about Erik Ten Hag again, calling for his head and all. But at what point are these players going to take initiative? I mean, for me, it's character. It's character. It's a text of character. You're 10 men down. And I think for me, it was a blessing for us a bit as supporters to see how our players and managers react when we do go into such a scenario. You're leading a game by 2-0 and you go a man down. But you look at certain things, players were failing on the basics. I felt that defensively we were terrible. Raphael Varane, I have said it here before, and now I think I'm beginning to get justified. I'm getting more confidence to say it. We should be selling Raphael Varane in January. We should be selling Varane in January. He can't stay. For me, we cannot pretend. We need a defender. Jean-Claude Todibo is one defender we should be going for with all confidence in January. It is that serious. I think it's an emergency situation. It's an urgent situation. Man United cannot be playing with Maguire and Tony Evans as our starting defenders. It can't happen. Raphael Varane is fit, but not good enough clearly. We see now why Erik Ten Hag is not starting him in games. I felt he had a poor game for me. I felt he could barely mark a person. Harry Maguire had a bigger load on him. For me, it was terrible to see, and it gave a biting expose of how rotten Raphael Varane is becoming. So for me, I don't see it. He came on with a bad character. I did not like his facial expressions and body language off the bench. I felt he was probably not so excited about playing. So you clearly look at this whole Man United thing and you're thinking, guys, isn't everything faltering for us? Players do not seem to want to play for the manager, probably because he had been, benched for games with reasons that it did not make sense to me and maybe clearly to him. So you clearly see that these players are playing in their heads. I've been saying it here, that the players of Man United are not playing with their feet. They are playing in their heads. There is a lot of uncertainty surrounding them. There is a lot of disinterest in them. You feel they don't have the character to want to play for Man United. You go to the player ratings and you want to rate player per player. Diogo Dalot, I would give him a 5 at best, but for me, he was probably below average, a 4 maybe. It was Andre Onana failing to dive for certain balls. Yes, we conceded goals because of mistakes made by outfield players, but I felt like there are certain goals that Onana continuously concedes and you're feeling, but Onana, this shouldn't be happening. Your confidence should be back now, and this should be, catching practice for you. So I would give Onana, I think, a 5.5 or thereabout out of 10. Harry Maguire struggled a bit with Varane, who was not, I think, on his day. I would give him maybe a decent 6.5 or 6. He tried a bit. Varane would be a 4 or 4.5. Bruno Fernandes, all over the place. Yes, he scored a penalty. I would give Bruno maybe a 6. Rasmus Højlund would almost get a 9. For me, I have nothing to say about Rasmus Højlund. He is where he's supposed to be at the right time. He's scoring the balls he should be scoring. He is in the right places at the right time, let down by the players around him. You can imagine for our striker to score 2 goals again and they mean nothing. This boy, I think, is the top scorer in the Champions League now, or one of the top scorers now. But he is scoring goals in losing affairs that we shouldn't be losing. For me, you feel for him. You feel for him. So you can imagine, should he be happy about going back to his boyhood club and scoring a brace, or should he be now frowning about a loss that he has got nothing to do with? So again, those are the issues, the disgrace we continue to see in Manchester United. There is a lot of us to worry about. Marcus Rashford, I perhaps won't rate him. Garnacho had fairly, I would give him a 5.5 or 6. I mean, we are generally just performing below par. Christian Eriksen should have been off the moment we got that red card. Erik Ten Hag goes on and takes his time to substitute him. I would give Ten Hag, I think, a 4 or 3 out of 10. Our worst performer on the night for me was Erik Ten Hag a bit, because of how he failed to manage moments, key moments in the game. From the moment we went a goal down, leading 2-0, whereas we went back and led again after going 2-2, I felt still he failed to manage the game. And for me, I've seen the best managers in the world. When you're 2-0 up and you get a red card, you're not playing to prove anyone. No one would care about how you're playing then. You're just managing a game. You just have to manage the game. You're playing for survival. I felt like Erik Ten Hag at times can get so full of himself and believe so much in what he's doing. And because it's been working, it has already given you 2 goals, for crying out loud. Just manage the game. You can't concede 4 goals after going 2-0 up to Copenhagen, regardless where you're playing, regardless of who is playing, regardless of how poor our players are, regardless of how bad it is. There is no way the manager can exonerate himself from this. I think he failed to manage the game like he has done before. I think it's again a biting expose of his poor game management. I'm not calling for his head, but I'm calling Erik Ten Hag out, because everyone has got something to improve. If there is one glaring thing that Ten Hag has got to improve, it is his game management. In certain key moments and situations, you've got to make it simple. The obvious thing to do if a striker is given a red card when you're leading by 2-0, or an attacking player, is bring on a defensive player. Period. You're playing away, you're 2-0 up, you have a red card. Park the bus if you have to. No one will blame you for parking the bus. But Erik Ten Hag is still attacking, and it paid off a bit. We get a 3rd goal, and that's where it stops. We concede one after the other, and boom, here we are, rock bottom on the log. Copenhagen is ahead of us. Galatasaray is ahead of us. We've had a chance to beat Copenhagen home and away. That was the only chance we had for 6 points. It is not happening. Galatasaray and Bayern beat us in the reverse fixtures. Obviously, it is going to be so difficult for us to even get a point of any of them in the 2 remaining games. So I think we've put ourselves in a tight position. Of course, the referees will have a part to play in this, but for me, we cannot blame the referees for this loss. It is the players and the manager who will take most of the blame. Again, unacceptable results. Boy, goodness. Manchester United is that gift that will just not stop giving. But what on earth are we bound to expect in the Premier League against FC Luton? To be honest, I'm beginning to get pressured. We could lose against Luton, and I'm not sure what I will come here and tell you. But that's where we are. Hotspot. The beauty though is Marcus Rashford will not be playing in the next 2 Champions League games. It's a blessing in disguise, because we've all felt that Rashford should be getting a bit of rest. In the Premier League, he's not really performing. I think if I'm Ten Hag, I'll rest him in the Premier League as well, because you do want to give players a chance, players who are performing. To be honest, these so-called senior players at United are not senior at all, because a senior players should know what to do to manage a game where you're 2-0 up and you get a red card against FC Copenhagen. Clearly they don't, and that's terrible. Hotspot. Subscribe. My name is Webb. Give me your 2 cents about this game as we do try to look for ways of bouncing back. It is going to be a long weekend for Man United, guys. It's going to be a long weekend for us. Hotspot. Subscribe. I'll catch you later.